Welcome to You and AI,
Yeah.
where we start with a single question,
Yeah.
throw it to the digital wolves,
Oh,
and see
right.
what they dig up for us.
Exactly.
And this time it's all about A24's 2024 horror film Heretic.
Yes, and we're going full-on film critic here.
Uh-huh.
Our AI has combed through every review on IMDb
Okay.
to think of this as like the hive mind's verdict
yeah.
on whether or not Heretic is worth your time.
And before we get into the nitty-gritty,
Okay.
I have to say,
Yeah.
Hugh Grant in a horror movie,
Right.
it's like casting a golden retriever as a werewolf.
Yeah, the surprise factor is definitely high.
Yeah.
And that's reflected in the reviews.
Okay.
But what's fascinating is how consistently people are praising Grant's performance as Mr. Reed.
Mm-hmm.
He's described as everything from a religion-obsessed psychopath
Oh, wow.
to an eloquent big bad wolf.
Okay, now those are some seriously evocative descriptions.
Right.
I'm already picturing him with a sinister twinkle in his eye and a Bible in hand.
Yeah, it seems that Mr. Reed is not your typical horror villain.
Okay.
He's charismatic, intelligent, and uses his words as weapons,
Oh.
which
yeah.
makes him even more unsettling.
So tell me more about the plot.
Yeah.
Who exactly is Mr. Reed terrorizing with his eloquent villainy?
So the movie focuses on two young Mormon missionaries,
Okay.
Sisters Barnes and Paxton,
Uh-huh.
who visit Mr. Reed,
Yeah.
hoping to convert him. But
Oh.
as you might expect, things take a rather dark turn.
Ah, the classic setup for a tense encounter.
Yeah.
But we're not just talking about a haunted house or a masked killer here, are we?
No, this is where Heretic gets really interesting.
Oh.
Many reviewers highlight the film's exploration of faith and doubt, with Mr. Reed challenging the missionaries' belief in ways that are both intellectual and unsettling.
So it's like a theological debate disguised as a horror movie.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
There are apparently scenes where Reed compares religion to everything,
Wow.
from board games
Interesting.
to pop music,
Wow.
suggesting that belief systems are ultimately just constructed narratives.
That's definitely thought-provoking.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it makes for some pretty tense dinner table conversations.
Right.
But before we get too deep into the philosophical side of things,
Sure.
let's talk about the supporting cast.
Okay.
Can these young actresses hold their own against a heavyweight like Hugh Grant?
Absolutely. Sophie Thatcher, who plays Sister Barnes,
Yeah.
and Chloe East, who plays Sister Paxton,
Yeah.
are both getting a lot of praise for their performances.
Okay.
Reviewers describe them as convincing, vulnerable, and able to convey the characters' growing fear and uncertainty.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
It's always nice to see strong female characters in a genre that often relies on damsels in distress.
Yeah.
But now, for the million-dollar question,
Hmm.
is Heretic actually scary?
Well, that's where things get a bit more complicated.
Okay.
While some reviewers describe the film as claustrophobic,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And genuinely disturbing.
Okay.
Others use terms like slow burn and psychological thriller,
Okay.
suggesting it's more about building suspense
Right.
than delivering jump scares.
Okay, so it might not be the kind of movie that leaves you sleeping with the lights on,
Yeah,
but it sounds like it gets under your skin in a different way.
exactly.
Okay.
And that seems to be one of the things that's dividing viewers.
Yeah.
Some appreciate the film's slow burn approach and emphasis on psychological tension,
Yeah.
while others find it frustrating and underwhelming.
Ah, the classic dilemma of expectation versus execution.
Exactly.
So we have a captivating villain,
Yeah.
thought-provoking themes, and a mix of opinions on the scare factor.
Right.
But something tells me there's more to this story.
You're right, and this is where we need to address the elephant in the room,
Oh, boy.
the ending.
Okay.
Because while Heretic seems to get a lot of things right,
The internet is pretty unanimous in its disappointment with how the film wraps up. It seems like Heretic builds this incredible atmosphere of suspense and intellectual intrigue, only to drop the ball at the last minute.
oh no,
Yeah.
that's always a bummer. What are people saying specifically about what makes the ending so disappointing?
The most common complaint is that it becomes too predictable, relying on familiar horror tropes instead of staying true to the film's unique premise. It's like the filmmakers got scared of their own boldness and opted for a safe, conventional ending that undermines the thought-provoking nature of what came before.
So instead of leaving the audience with something to chew on, it just spits out a pre-digested conclusion.
Exactly.
What a missed opportunity.
And it seems to be particularly frustrating for viewers who were invested in the theological debate and the psychological complexity of the characters. They feel like the ending throws all that nuance out the window in favor of a cheap thrill.
I can see how that would be a letdown.
Yeah.
It's like going to a gourmet restaurant and getting served a microwave burrito for dessert. But before we write Heretic off completely,
Sure,
let's dig a bit deeper into what reviewers are praising about the film. I mean, Hugh Grant's performance alone seems like it's worth the price of admission.
absolutely. And it's not just about the surprise factor of seeing him in a villainous role.
Right.
Reviewers are praising his subtlety, his charisma, and the way he brings a chilling intelligence to the character of Mr. Reed.
I've always loved his wit and charm. But to hear that he can also be genuinely menacing is incredibly intriguing.
It seems like he's found a whole new dimension to his acting abilities.
Wow.
And many are even predicting award nominations for this performance.
Wow, that's high praise indeed. It makes me wonder if this role will be a turning point in his career, leading him towards more complex and challenging roles.
That's definitely a possibility, and it's something a few reviewers have speculated on as well.
Oh.
They see this as a deliberate choice on Grant's part to break free from his rom-com image and embrace a darker, more ambiguous side.
I, for one, am here for it. But let's not forget about the other elements that are contributing to the film's positive reception.
Sure.
We talked about the thought-provoking themes and the strong supporting performances. But what about the overall atmosphere and visual style of the film?
Several reviewers highlight the film's masterful use of setting and symbolism to create an unsettling and claustrophobic atmosphere.
Okay.
Mr. Reed's house in particular is described as being almost like a character itself,
Oh, interesting.
reflecting his warped psyche and adding to the sense of unease.
Ooh, I love when a setting becomes so integral to the story.
Yeah,
It's like the walls themselves are closing in on the characters.
right.
What specific details about the house did reviewers mention?
There's a lot of talk about the use of light and shadow,
Okay.
the intricate and somewhat labyrinthine design of the house,
Okay.
and even the sound design with its creaking floorboards and dripping ceilings.
Wow.
All these elements work together to create a constant sense of tension and foreboding.
It sounds like the filmmakers really put a lot of thought into crafting an environment that reflects the psychological undercurrents of the story. And speaking of symbolism, did any other visual motifs stand out in the reviews?
One recurring element that caught my attention was the use of board games and labyrinths.
Okay.
Mr. Reed, in his discussions with the missionaries, often compares religion to a board game,
Right.
suggesting that its rules and structures are arbitrary and ultimately meaningless.
That's a fascinating parallel.
Yeah.
It plays into the film's exploration of doubt and the questioning of established systems of belief. And how does the labyrinth imagery tie into all of this?
The labyrinth symbolizes the characters' journeys of self-discovery
Okay.
and the challenges they face in navigating their own belief systems.
Right.
One reviewer even mentioned a model labyrinth featured prominently in the film,
Oh, wow.
which becomes a visual representation of the characters' internal struggles.
Okay, so we have a captivating villain, thought-provoking themes, strong performances, a creepy setting, rich with symbolism, and a divisive ending.
Yeah.
It seems like Heretic is a film that's sparking a lot of conversation and eliciting a wide range of reactions.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. It's not just about giving a thumbs up or thumbs down to the movie.
Right.
It's about exploring the different ways people are engaging with its ideas and how those reactions reflect their own perspectives on faith, doubt, and the nature of belief.
It sounds like Heretic is one of those movies that sticks with you long after the credits roll, even if it's not always for the right reasons.
Precisely. And that's something we're seeing reflected in a lot of the reviews.
Yeah.
People are praising the film for its ambition, its willingness to tackle complex themes,
Right.
and its ability to provoke genuine thought and discussion.
So it's not just about providing cheap thrills or easy answers.
Right.
It's about challenging audiences to confront their own beliefs and grapple with difficult questions.
And I think that's why the ending is proving to be so divisive.
Okay.
For viewers who were drawn to the film's intellectual and psychological depth,
Yeah.
the ending feels like a betrayal of that promise.
Right.
It's as if the filmmakers, after leading the audience down this winding labyrinth of ideas, suddenly decided to take a shortcut out.
It's like they got cold feet and resorted to a familiar horror formula instead of trusting the audience to handle something more ambiguous and unsettling.
Yeah, and it seems to be leaving a lot of viewers feeling frustrated and unfulfilled.
Yeah. I can understand that, but let's not forget about the film's strengths.
Right.
We've talked about Hugh Grant's performance, the thought-provoking themes, the eerie setting, and the nuanced supporting characters.
Right.
It seems like Heretic has a lot to offer, even if it doesn't quite stick the landing.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to acknowledge that even the reviewers who are critical of the ending still find a lot to admire in the film.
Okay.
They praise its originality, its visual style, and its performances.
So it's not a complete disaster by any means.
Right.
It's a flawed but ambitious film that's trying to do something different with the horror genre.
Exactly. And ultimately, whether or not you enjoy Heretic probably depends on what you're looking for in a horror movie.
Okay.
If you're seeking pure adrenaline-pumping scares, you might be disappointed.
Right.
But if you're open to a more intellectual, psychological, and thematically complex experience, then Heretic might be right up your alley.
It sounds like it's one of those movies that benefits from going in with the right expectations.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's more of a slow burn thriller with a focus on character and ideas might make you more forgiving of its flaws.
That's a good point. It's also worth remembering that film criticism is subjective.
Yeah.
What one person finds disappointing, another might find brilliant.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all answer to the question of whether Heretic is a good or bad movie.
Right.
It all comes down to personal taste.
And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating.
Yeah.
We've explored the film from multiple angles, considered different perspectives, and ultimately left the final judgment up to you, the listener.
That's right. We've provided the information, the insights, and the context. Now it's your turn to decide whether Heretic is worth adding to your watch list.
And if you do decide to watch it, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Did you find it terrifying?
Right.
Thought-provoking? Disappointing?
Yeah.
Let us know.
Because ultimately the most interesting conversations happen after the movie ends.
And that's what U&AI is all about.
Right.
Exploring the ideas, the debates, and the diverse perspectives that emerge when we engage with art and culture.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Heretic.
Yeah.
We hope you've enjoyed the journey.
Thanks for listening.
And that you'll join us again next time for another AI-powered exploration of a topic chosen by you.
Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.